Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Well, secret organizations seem to pop up at almost every turn on the pages of history. Now, we've studied several in this series, but one is actually a not-so-secret organization that has been on the American conscience since the end of the Civil War. This organization has existed under the same name, but in several different iterations, with each iteration carrying the same spirit of racial terrorism as its driving force. This insidious group, which has existed in some form or another since late 1865, is known as the Ku Klux Klan. So in the ashes of the Confederate defeat in the American Civil War, the very lifeblood of the antebellum South's economy, racial slavery, was obliterated. As blacks across the South gained their legal freedom and former Confederate soldiers licked their wounds from the devastation of the Union Army's execution of total war, there was no small number of Confederate veterans and sympathizers who wanted to get some revenge for the loss in the war. So in the months following the surrender at Appomattox, the Ku Klux Klan was born, with one of the most infamous Southern war hawks as its first grand wizard. That would be Nathan Bedford Forrest. Now, the name Ku Klux Klan could loosely be related to the Greek word for circle, but truthfully, there seems to be very little rhyme or reason behind the name. The purpose of the organization, sadly, was much clearer than its name. The Klan was founded to be a terrorist organization to stem the growth of racial equality in the post-war South. Klansmen would often dress in full-bodied white costumes that covered their faces and were meant to resemble the ghosts of dead Confederate soldiers returning from the grave to haunt black Americans and keep them in a state of racial subjugation even as free men. There were bombings, shootings, lynching, and many other crimes committed against black Americans in the post-war South in this first iteration of the Klan. Now, this first version of the Klan did not last long, maybe a generation, even less, in part because Forrest was against the group's use of violence and in large part also because of laws implemented by the United States government. So by the end of the 19th century, this first version of the Klan was all but defunct until it was resurrected in some form in 1915. With similar racial beliefs as the original, this second iteration also at times displayed discrimination against various other groups such as Jews, foreigners, and Roman Catholics. Now, the Ku Klux Klan has evolved and changed somewhat since then, but it still exists today. Klan sympathizers have tried to diminish the group's insidious beginnings and early intentions, mainly by claiming that the group is now more a pro-American group than it is anti-black or anti-Semitic. It should be noted that in recent years, especially with the rise of renewed racial tension in America following the death of George Floyd in 2020, many on the political left have tried to shoehorn any conservative or pro-American group in with the likes of the Klan, which is in itself equally as dangerous as modern Klansmen trying to downplay the villainous nature of their terroristic organization. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.